I am deeply honored to bring Jules Schroeder to the DNX stage.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Yeah? I'll ask you guys again. How's everybody doing? Yeah. I know it's been a long day, so I'd love to start off by getting everyone's voice in this space. So what I mean by that is I want you to just drop in for a moment, tune in, and check into a word that you're present to right in this moment. What's alive for you? And then just start shouting it out, whatever word it is, so we can get everyone's voice in the space. Kind of like a giant pot of yummy stew.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. And feel free to yell it out so everyone can hear you back there. Gratitude.
Awesome.
Yeah, don't be polite, guys. You can say it all at once.
Awesome.
Oh, happiness.
Freedom.
Freedom. I know we can hear from a few more of you. What else? What else is alive here in this moment? How's it been going? Self-confidence. Joy. Energy, excitement. Yeah, a few more.
Infinity.
Infinity.
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
Energy.
Energy. Awesome. Awesome, guys. So, ignoring conventional wisdom to live an unconventional life. Who here's got a lot of passions? Show of hands. Who here would you say has got more than one passion? Show of hands. Yeah. And it's interesting because we often get told to find and follow our passion, as if there is only one. So as Jackie introduced me, a Renaissance woman, which was quite a compliment, my life looks different, and I'll give you kind of a glimmer of what my life looks like. So I have a lot of passions. One is I enjoy traveling, like a lot of you guys. This was me leading an event in Panama this past March. And what I love doing is workshopping. So usually big stages are not my jam as much, where tomorrow I'll be giving an awesome workshop. I also love hosting live events. We had 50 entrepreneurs in a castle in Italy this past May, and we'll be bringing 75 to a tree house in Nicaragua at the end of November. I also love music. So this was me taken 2 years ago at the UN in New York. And interesting story that I'll tell about later, but I ended up doing a 15-minute improv set, as in made up everything on the fly at the UN in a room of a bunch of delegates, which I'll share about that in a little bit. I also love yoga. Any yogis in the room? Yeah? Acro yogis, keep the hands up. Yeah, I love acro yoga. That's my sister. This was actually taken at the Havasu Falls in the Grand Canyon. I'm also a snowboarder. Anyone Never Summer? Know about Never Summer snowboards? I know our digital nomads, we prefer the beach usually. This is me in the Alps, snowboarding. Often you will find me not in a coffee shop, but on my couch. This is my preferred work spot. I work from home and on my couch. Any bed or couch workers? Yeah, raise the hands proud. And I also love my dog. This is my dog, Ella Fitzgerald, who came named that way, which was perfect given that I'm a musician. And I live in Colorado, in the mountains, and so often when I'm not couch working, I usually come down the canyon to go on hikes. But more than anything else, I'm very much an introverted extrovert. Any of you guys identify that way? Introverted extroverts? What I mean by that is those of us that have a lot of desire to be outward, but often really prefer their alone time. For me, I require it. It's vital. And often you'll see me on some creek somewhere or hanging out on some riverbed, usually journaling or reading or writing in some capacity. So my life looks pretty unconventional in a lot of different ways. And I grew up very much being told that I needed to fit in one shape or form, one box. Can anyone relate to that in this room? I know it's been a theme throughout all of our talks today. And for me, I grew up in Connecticut, oldest of 5 girls. My dad worked Wall Street in New York City and was very much linear mind, go to school, go to college or university, get a degree, get a job, get a really good paying job, save up money, buy a house, have kids, and then die. Does that resonate with anyone? To some degree. So one of the things that I learned from my dad more than anything was this way of thinking, where when I was 16 growing up, it always used to be he'd come home from a long day at the office and his conversations with me were like, what are you doing with your life? Where's this going? How is this gonna make money? How is this going to be a safe choice? And I would have the best of plans. Sometimes it would be just going out with my friends for the weekend. And other times it would be more business ideas. And within minutes, he would find holes in every single plan. And it crushed me, and it was actually quite annoying in a lot of ways. But from that, I learned to think differently. I learned to look at a picture and see the holes and see what was missing, and then ultimately put myself there. So my story, I had success at a young age. I ran my first six-figure company at 18, my first seven-figure company at 22. And by the time I was 24, I went into $200,000 worth of debt. So there I was, you guys remember that snowboarding picture? On this picture, I was December of 2013. I was skiing at 26 mountains, 4 different countries in 30 days. At the time, I was running a publishing company. We figured out how to make books bestsellers on Amazon back in 2012 before the algorithm came out, and we took that algorithm, turned it into a company, did a seven-figure launch, and then did books for people like Dave Asprey, Mind Valley, and some others. And it was coming back from that trip that it was 2 weeks later, and I get this phone call, and it was from the accountant, and one of our business partners had been embezzling. And at the time, working with us was $30,000 per client. And so in a matter of weeks, I went from having everything that I thought was important, the company being 24, having 25 employees, the savings account, the prestige, to essentially losing everything. And over the next 8 months, I spiraled deeper and deeper into rock bottom. I was dating the other business partner, ended that relationship within a few months, and then took all of my savings and I was like, I'll just fix it. I'll just give everything. And then I was like, you know what? I'll start more companies. I'll work harder. I'll make more money. I will do more. Who can relate to that? Things are falling apart, so you'll just do more to fix it. And finally, it was like 8 months later, and I was having a series of brain fogs, driven my health into the ground, drained my personal savings, and I was like, there has to be more. Put my hands up in the air, and I was like, who's ever up there? You've got my attention. And it was in this rock bottom place that I started to ask myself, who am I without all of these things? Who am I without this successful company? Who am I without this relationship? Who am I without this savings account? And I began to realize, even though I had been successful, I still hadn't been living on my own terms. Even though I was an entrepreneur, I still wasn't living for myself. I would go from project to project to project and was never able to actually enjoy any of it. Any of you guys relate to that? You never can even feel your own success when you're successful because you're always on to the next thing. That was me, until I sat there in that moment. And I did what any girl at 24 would do when she's lost everything. I called my dad, I got on the phone, and I cried. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And what I decided to do was take 2 months off. And I said, instead of doing more, instead of trying harder, what if I just stopped everything and I just listened and I just waited? So I created this game, the 60-day game is what I called it. And my only goal was to listen for what I called the hell yes. So I enrolled everybody in my life, and I told people, I was like, you might not hear from me for a little while, response times are gonna be a little bit slower, but I'm just gonna take time off and go inward. I live in Colorado, so pot is legal in Colorado, so it looks like getting high most nights, and playing the ukulele, and just listening. And my only objective, my hypothesis was, if I only said yes to the things that were truly hell yeses, what would my life look like? So who here finds themselves saying yes to things like compulsively, without even realizing it? Just like, sure, I'll do that. Oh, you've got a fun invitation, let's go out this weekend, I'll do that. Oh, you need help mowing the lawn, oh, I'll do that. Any people pleasers? Yeah, totally. So I got curious, what if I just acted only on the hell yeses? And what I mean by that is sometimes we get these invitations in life, where as soon as a friend asks us, it was literally like, do you want to come speak in Portugal? Insta, like full-bodied, hell yes, I am here. Didn't even have to think about that. But then other times we get these invitations that it's like, maybe, it could be kind of a yes, potentially a yes. And I call those the should yeses experience. And those happen to us all the time. And usually I find that when we yes these maybe yeses, they end up being kind of iffy experiences. So the hell yes or no game is a game that I want to offer you guys. And the only premise of this game is what would life look like if you only lived from a hell yes. And if it was not a hell yes, it was just a no or a not right now. So step one of this game is basically awareness. So like I said, I decided to play this game for 60 days. It took me 45 of the days just to get awareness in the moment when someone was asking me an invitation to actually check in, pause, feel, and ask myself, was that a hell yes or not? Then after I got the hell yes or no, it was action. So in that game, 15 of those days, I got to day 45, just got awareness. In the last 15 days, I started to sync up the action with that awareness. And then the last step is I started experimenting. So this one principle, I have shared this on stages, places all over the world. And if you were to put this into your life today, I started this about 4 years ago, life would look dramatically different. And what I found after those 60 days, primarily, was that instead of getting approached by these maybe invitations, things that seemed good, but not great, business opportunities that could maybe be awesome, but not totally what I wanted, started to go. And every time I said no, it made space for more yeses. Kind of like building a muscle. Who here likes to work out or go to the gym? Any CrossFitters in the room? Yeah, I CrossFit like 4 to 5 times a week and teach yoga. And in building these skills, physical skills, it's like building muscles. And this is a skill or a tool that you can use. And I find the more I've done it, especially over the last 3 years, the more the opportunities that come to me are truly hell yeses. Any questions about that game? No. So as an opportunity, you guys might not have 60 days, but if you were to try this literally for the next 24 hours, if you said from this moment on to the rest of the weekend, I'm gonna play hell yes or no, like I'm gonna just be a no to anything that's not hell yes, and if you do decide to take action on something that's a maybe yes, notice what happens. And from that place, work and build that muscle and see what starts to alter. Who here relates to having intuition? Raise your hand. When I say intuition, you'd say you're intuitive. For me, for most of my life, that was not in my repertoire at all. People would be like, intuition. I'd be like, that's a great concept. Or check in, feel into your body, get the gut feeling. Anyone not able to get a gut feeling? Yeah, it's totally me for a lot of my life. And it was through this game that I started to actually have enough space to be able to hear myself. And in that space, started to actually build the muscle. And I find it's an interesting thing when you can actually hear yourself, that's when you can start being in action that's in alignment. And when that aligned action syncs up, it's like a multiplier effect. Take 1 step forward, get 10 steps out. So little did I know at the time that this rock bottom incident wasn't going to be the last of it. About 1.5 years later, after I'd been playing this game, working these muscles, I had this near-death experience. So this is me in the hospital, and it was July of 2015. It was wakeboarding in Colorado. And went to try to jump the water or jump the wake, got a lot of air, face planted and smacked. And I knew in that moment that, it was definitely a hard fall. But as a snowboarder, as an athlete, I was like, okay, whatever. That hit hard, I'll be okay. An hour later, I get off the boat, I'm in the bathroom, and my whole body starts to go numb and tingly. I remember barely being able to get out of the bathroom. I look at my friend in the eye, and I just like, something's terribly wrong. I need to go to the hospital. I don't remember much after that, but the next thing I remember is coming out of the MRI, lying in this hospital bed, and a white figure, 6 Black Shadow Council member, approached me. And we had this conversation. Jules, you have more work to do in the world. Do you want to do it? And I said, yes, as long as I'm not coming back as a vegetable. And at the time, they thought my neck was broken, they thought I was paralyzed. And in that moment when I said yes, I got zapped back into my body. I felt this energy forge my neck back together and shoot down my spine. And when I woke up, life dramatically altered. Who I was before, little did I know that that embezzlement was just gutting out the way for this integration to happen. But as I laid there in that hospital bed, I started to feel a distinct shift about who I was. It did eventually get better in the hospital room, but did spend some time there. But more than anything, my experience of being alive changed, and my experience of being alive, even in this moment, is completely different. But life started to shift and show up for me in a way that it never had. 3 weeks later, I get a phone call. This woman says, "Hey, my whole team is flying into town. Do you think you could come do some marketing consulting for us?" And I'm in that neck brace, saying to myself, well, it's not really a good time, but it felt like a hell yes. And so I was like, what do I do? I was like, I guess I go in my neck brace and consult her whole team. Little do I know that she's working for the UN, the United Nations, on the 17 Global Goals campaign, and is looking for 17 ambassadors. And this voice comes to me, tell her you're in education, and it's called Create You. No business plan, no idea of what this is, and I just share myself. Unapologetically, unfiltered, just share. I've got this thing called Create You, it's about education. She says to me, can you be at the UN in 3 weeks? We'd love for you to be the ambassador of education. I'm like thinking to myself, neck brace and all, sure, I'll be there. And in 3 weeks, I go from no business plan, just some voice with an idea, and I show up at the UN to present to be this ambassador for education. Then I get there, and their performer, lo and behold, their flight is canceled. And they're freaking out to do this big announcement. They don't have a performer, and I'm like, wait, I'm a performer. I was like, here's my YouTube. And she checks out my YouTube, and she's like, all right, you're on. You're on in 12 hours. So I call up my buddy in Brooklyn, and I'm like, hey, can you skip work tomorrow and bring your guitar and come to the UN and accompany me? He's like, at the UN? It's like, yeah, just come to the UN. So him and his buddy bring a drum, they come to the UN, and I decide to improv. And one of the things that I do is I channel. I believe all of us in a lot of ways are channels. And you might not use that word, but what I mean by that is you allow stuff to come through and out. It's how you express yourself. And one of the things that I do through music, through my creating, through art, through business is channel. So I got on stage, we decided to do it in the key of A minor. And I held the microphone, and they started playing, and I just sang for 20 minutes. And who's had like a flow state experience? Like you're so in the zone, you black out almost. It's just like you could get lost doing it for hours. Any of you guys? Yeah, happens to me snowboarding sometimes. It was totally like that. And I remember coming off the stage being like, whew, that was exhilarating. And everyone there thought that I was there for the performance, and honestly forgot that I was there for the business stuff. Simultaneously, as I'm on the way to the UN, I get an email from Forbes. Oh, hey, we've actually heard about the work you're doing at the UN. We'd like to invite you to our Forbes 30 Under 30 event. Oh, okay. Can you be there? Well, it just happened to be a week later in Boston, so sure. And then 6 months after that, I say to my boyfriend, hey, I think I'd like to start writing for Forbes. No blogging experience, no professional repertoire. A week later, I get an email. Oh, we actually would love for you to start writing for us. And I was like, well, actually, I've got this idea for this podcast called Unconventional Life. Oh, that sounds interesting. Why don't you make it the official podcast of Forbes Under 30? Literally 3 weeks, I call up everybody I knew about podcasting. And I'm like, how do I do a podcast? How do I make it happen? And in 3 weeks, we went live. And I was sitting in the hot springs outside of Iceland on a little ghetto Wi-Fi device and hit send. And it was live. And I share all of this with you guys as an offering that sometimes we figure, or it makes it seem that we have to have it figured out. It needs to be perfect before you can be in action. Most of my life, and this theory behind the unconventional life, is you're just present with it, moment by moment by moment. Case in point, I had quite a few slides prepared for you, and during the lunch break, I deleted them all. And that was because I checked in the moment. I was like, what actually wants to be said here? What is relevant? And so often we box ourselves in. We think that we can't express ourselves, or if we want to express ourselves, it has to be in an already expressed, packaged form. But that conventional way of thinking keeps us trapped. And if I've learned anything from the successes that I've had, it's been just allowing myself to be a yes, moment by moment by moment. Flash forward to where I am now. It was exactly a year ago. I had this dream. I saw 30 entrepreneurs gathering. First words out of my mouth were Bali. I got the vision to do a live event. Anyone here ever had any like intuitive dreams or hits that come to them? Maybe you're in the shower and you get this insight for this next business idea. They come in all different ways. Yeah, this happens to me a lot. And often when we get these things, we usually hear them and we put them away. No way, definitely can't do that one. Or no, not right now. And for me, that dream nagged me for 2 weeks. So I said to my then boyfriend, I'm like, what do I do? And he's like, you host a live event. And I decided to go all in. And in 7 weeks, sold out my first live event to 30 entrepreneurs in Bali. And it was during the closing circle where I looked around and I said, for the first time in my life, it felt like a 100% hell yes. Every element of my self-expression got to be expressed at the same time in the same place. I got to be doing music. I got to be facilitating. I got to be connecting and bringing people together. And I said to everyone, I was like, I don't know if we'll do this again. I don't know when or where, but if you want to do it, definitely do it. 30% of the people on the spot said yes, and were trying to give me money to register. And then I had to figure out how to take payment. Inc. magazine ranks me one of the top 27 women entrepreneurs changing the world in 2017. 2 months after that, oh, we heard about these live events that you're doing, and we just want to acknowledge you for them. Flash forward, we do a castle in Italy, 300 applications, 50 spots, no marketing. And this process of executing and allowing, I attribute it to just being the channel. And yes, I'm the vessel for what's happening, but this isn't about me. It's not about Jules in the world. And I think back to that conversation after. Jules, you have more work to do in the world. Do you want to do it? So this strategy is what I call rapid visioning. And it's one that I want to offer to you. And if I look back at all the things that have happened and the way in which they've happened, this moment by moment practice of how it unfolds comes down to this. And I relate to it as the minimum movement, maximum impact strategy. 1 step forward to get 10 steps out. So I'll share a little case study. This case study I'm going to share with you created $80,000 revenue stream in 3 days. Who's been sitting on a business idea for more than 3 months? Show of hands. Keep them up more than 6 months? More than a year? 2 years? Over 5 years? 10 years? 15? 20? How long? 21 years. So guys, I just finished an album. I had been sitting on the desire to do that for 9 years. When I left that recording studio in Vancouver Island, I was like, hell yeah. Like I finally did it. It had been living inside me for that long. So this strategy is kind of the shortcut. And it's the way to get stuff out and into the world the fastest without having to sit in all of the stuff that naturally comes up for us. So the first step with it, I'll share the case study and then I'll break it down. I got out of this relationship this past March. We'd been together for many years. Anyone had a relationship like that? You think it's going long term and then it ends? Yeah, that was me. And interestingly enough, I did Jackie's course and that was responsible for the relationship ending. Thanks, Jackie. Her flow stuff, I'm telling you, it works, it really works. He was like, yeah, just intuitively it's a no for me right now. Like, okay. So I'm sitting home alone one night in Boulder, Colorado in my mountain house, and I'm just like sitting, I'm like, where are my ladies at? I would love to take a bucket list trip somewhere in the world with some badass women. Write the posts, and I'm like, if no one comments, I'm deleting this thing in an hour. Like 5 minutes later, it starts blowing up. Becomes one of my most viral posts ever. 150 plus comments. And here's the thing. And so as people are commenting, tagging their friends, it's going nuts. I'm like saying to myself, I'm like, what do we do? Like, it's getting confusing. So I thought, well, what's the next logical step? Oh, why don't I just create a Facebook group? We'll call it Boss Posse, because why not? And let's just put everyone in there so that we can keep the conversation going. And then I thought to myself, well, what's the next step once they're in a group? What if I put together a little idea for a trip, tell everyone it's $2,000, and then start collecting deposits? 40 women, 100 women get in this group. 40 women say yes, and in a span of 3 days, I have a new $80,000 revenue stream for them to take a trip somewhere around the world for 5 days. $80,000 just created like that in 3 days through rapid visioning. Now, it would have been way easier, well, maybe not easier, but what would have been conventional, which would have been, hey, let me think about something for women, let me spend a lot of time researching, let me go find the right groups, versus just let me share my idea and see how it goes. This one tool, you guys can literally implement in this moment. I guarantee that if you guys are sitting on an idea and you were to post it on Facebook, LinkedIn, or even call somebody and say, hey, I've got this thing, are you interested? And you watch the feedback and the response, that will dictate the next step. The entry and the barrier to business, if I've learned anything through my journey, is there's 1,000,001 ways to make money in the world. Like infinite. And when you stay present, moment by moment by moment, that's when you have the access and the opportunity to be able to do those things. Rapid visioning. You literally could say anyone in this room right now, at the party or during dinner, and just share. Hey, I've got this thing. Think about me in a neck brace, post-UN. I've got this thing called Create You. Where does that take me? To the UN. Oh, here's my YouTube. Next thing I'm on stage. Oh wait, I've got a dream. I want to do a women's thing. And so the unconventional life is just unapologetically expressing yourself. No filter. Just saying, yes, this is me and all of me. And no, I cannot fit into a certain way, but I am here right now, and I am ready, and I am willing, and I'm a yes to myself and to the world. And regardless of whatever expression that you choose or that you learn, if you are a yes to yourself every time, you don't need anything more. And if you walk away with anything from anything that I've shared, is there's no gap in between who you are and where you want to be. You can consider that it's already happening right now, in this moment, in this next moment, moment by moment by moment. My toolkit, the hell yes or no game, the rapid visioning, contraction versus expansion. What I mean by that, essentially, is paying attention to what lights you up, what has you feel alive, the conversations that you have with people where you're like, hell yeah, I feel awesome and I'm ready to take on the world, versus the ones you have where you're like, wow, I actually feel kind of drained. And choosing your life based on that. Following your highest excitement. Does anyone get excited by things? Just a few of you? Really? I know it's been a long day, but... So actually paying attention to what has you excited and following that. Creating space, radical self-care. Most of the time we hear about self-care and we think to do it last. I actually don't start working until 12 o'clock every day. I get up, I go to CrossFit, I come back, I drink chai tea, I read my book, I play with my dog, and then I'll start working. And I work for 6 hours a day, maximum. And I find that I'm more productive in 4 to 6 hours than I am if I spent 8 to 12. And lastly, blind trust. This whole thing called life, if I've learned anything post near-death experience, it's all an inquiry into the unknown. And to be radically willing to surrender yourself, the fact that you're even in this room, I just want to honor you. It takes a lot to show up for a conversation like this. To put yourself here and to say, yes, I'm willing to look. Yes, I'm willing to work on myself. Yes, I must stand for more. Yes, I want to create impact. Yes, I want to live a life I love. That's not the typical conversation. And so often, we just push ourselves and we keep going. And so if anything else, deep bow. to all of you for showing up into this room and for being in this conversation, because it takes something, truly. Being a candle is not easy. In order to give light, one must first burn. It's been a theme, right? Pat started off this morning, he lost his job with architecture. Jackie and her brother passing away. Me and my embezzlement, the near-death experience. I imagine there are things happening to some of you guys in this room right now that are hard, that totally suck, that don't feel good, that aren't exciting, and might be going on for a long time. And if that's true for you, that's okay. It's all part of the process. And I find that the more I'm being tested, and the more obstacles I'm being thrown, I'm actually just being gutted to create more space, to hold more light, to cause more transformation, to cause more impact. So remember that. And coming back, there is no gap. What you seek is seeking you. Just trust that. Thank you, guys.